Your greatest responsibility isn't simply to provide for your family. It is to be healthy enough to enjoy the life you've been working so hard to build. Welcome to Living at Your Finest podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Babs. I'm a triple board certified family, obesity, and lifestyle medicine physician, and I am the founder of Living at Your Finest Wellness, a holistic direct primary care practice. Did you know that 80% of lifestyle-related chronic diseases within our communities are preventable, with poor diet being the primary culprit? Now, contrary to what we thought, that it was our unfortunate genes, the good news is that we can make changes together to improve our health and quality of life. So that's what this podcast is all about. The Living at Your Finest podcast is devoted to helping families to live at their finest well-being using a holistic approach with a healthy lifestyle to nourish and flourish as a whole, vibrant, and healthy champion. So join me and my guests as we share transformational and sustainable skill sets from our health and wellness journey to support you and your families in achieving optimal well-being. Ready to live at your finest? Well, let's get to it. Welcome to the Living at Your Finest podcast show. I am pleased that you are tuned in for another amazing episode, and this episode is geared to our men. It is Men Awareness Month, and I cannot let the month go by without dedicating an episode to our wonderful, powerful, strong, able, capable man. But before I get started with the title ABCDE of men's health, I want to just say hello to everyone. If you're new to this podcast, thank you for tuning on. For those that are returning listeners, I am so grateful. I don't take your time for granted at all. Thank you so much for being a listener. And I hope that you're sharing with your friends and family and you're finding value in this podcast. I do this for you. I hope all is well with you and yours as we move into the second half of 2026. I trust all is well and all is going fine with you. So today I want to talk about the ABCDE of men's health. And it's so important for us to be aware. You know, I was at the airport. I think I was attending a conference, and I overheard some men talking where the guy said, "Oh, my doctor said I can't do that anymore." And then the other guy said, "So why'd you go to your doctor?" That's why I don't go to the doctors. I'm not told what to say or what to do. And I just chuckled, you know. And then I remember also speaking to a group of men, and they had just lost a dear friend who refused to go to the doctor. And so all of them, you know, that usually happens in my practice when you see a whole bunch of men scheduling for a follow-up. It's because somebody has passed, a dear friend, a family member, and rightfully so, everybody's nervous and anxious, and they're asking questions. Have I had this done? Have I had this blood check? You know, you have a boost of male patients coming to the doctors, just like in the new year where everyone floods the gym. Well, you know, the guy was saying, well, we don't go to the doctor. It's just what we do. We just don't go. And I know that my husband, when he has repented now, but I would have to drag him to the hospital, to the clinic, or I would have to reschedule his appointments because he's not making it. But yeah, so these are things that we hear. I don't get sick. I'm fine. I go if things get worse. I don't need a doctor. I've not seen a doctor in 28 years. That is not a badge of honor. Not at all. It's not avoiding health care that is your strength. It's actually at least once a year, knowing what's happening. You know, when men avoid preventive care, they don't just risk their own health, but the risk missing previous years with the people that they love. Okay, so take that wisely. Listen to it deeply and understand that, you know, we say I can do anything for my family and my loved ones, but really, can you think about it? When last have you seen the doctor? When last have you seen about your health? So the strongest men I know are not the ones who ignore problems. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get buried with you not addressing it. They're the ones that face it headstrong. Unfortunately, just this year alone, I've heard of so many, even people that I know went to bed and didn't wake up, man, or suddenly, suddenly heart attacks, strokes, all sorts of things happening. And this does not have to be our narrative. So that's why today I want to talk about the ABCDE of men's health. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started. So what do I mean about the ABCDE of men's health? I really want to make this practical. I want to make this memorable, right? Something you can remember. I don't want to make it complicated. So I'm going to tell you what all those alphabets stand for. And I want you, not in a judgmental way, but I want you to pay attention to where you fit in that category, okay? We know that cardiac disease is number one, right? For both men and women. But what are all the other things that tailor into cardiac issues? So let's start with the A. A is A1C, hemoglobin A1C. And just in case you don't know what that is, whenever we eat, naturally the pancreas secretes insulin, and insulin is a hormone that has a job to perform. And the job of the insulin is, once the sugar is in the bloodstream, it takes the sugar from the bloodstream into the cell where it's needed. Okay? Because it's not meant to stay in the bloodstream, because if it stays in the bloodstream, it gets thick. Oxygen cannot flow. All the things that need to function, make the body function, cannot do its work because there's a clogged up system. So when the insulin is not working well enough, that's what we call insulin resistance. It's not responding. It's leaving a whole bunch of sugar in the bloodstream. Now, A1C measures what the function of your cell is. Is it bombarded by sugar? That would give you the number. The higher it is, the abnormal number, the lower it is, the better. What is a normal A1C? It should be less than, so between 4.8 and 5.5, with optimal value around somewhere about 5.2. Anything greater than 5.6, 5.7 to about 6.3, 6.4 is considered pre-diabetes. Please know those numbers. I've had patients come to me and they had no idea that A1C was trending upwards. We don't want to focus on sick care. We want to focus on well care. There was a time when my numbers were trending. I was like, okay. I'm a sweet tooth. I got to slow down. I don't want to have diabetes. I have a strong family history of diabetes. But again, if you follow me, you've heard me say that a gun is loaded, yes, by genes and all of that, but somebody still needs to pull the trigger. And that's where epigenetics comes in. That's where your lifestyle and your environment, which is 80% of the story, comes in. So the good news is that diabetes is reversible. It's reversible by what you eat, the nutrition, right? Plant-based legumes, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, all these things, whole grain, all of that. I have the finest code, right? The F is the fitness, right? The I is the interaction. The N is the nourishing nutrition, right? And then, of course, we have the E, the S, which is sleep and stress management, and T is take care of yourself. So back to the A1C. These are the things we need to be aware of. High sugar damages your blood vessels. Anywhere there's blood vessel, just name it. Eyes, yes. Kidneys, yes. Nerve ending, all of that is affected. So you've got to know what your A1C is. I like to always reference a beautiful study called the Diabetes Prevention Study. In that study, it was quite a number of patients where they had pre-diabetes within the range. Remember, I said anywhere from 5.6 to about 6.3, 6.4. They had three groups. So one was in the placebo group, where they don't know what they got. There was one that just got metformin, which is one of the number one tablets for diabetes or pre-diabetes. And then the other one was strictly lifestyle. You know that after the study, the one that just did lifestyle, 58% of them were able to decrease the A1C, while those that did just the metformin without lifestyle was about 38 decrease. So I love to always say and tell patients and tell my listeners that it's reversible. You can change your lifestyle right? I've been able to do it. My husband has been able to do it. We actually did a podcast together when he was able to reverse his A1C all the way from 12, and he had all the complications thinkable. He had it, and he was able to reverse it. Of course, he used treatment, medications, but he also dialed into his lifestyle. So that's A1C. Know your A1C. All right. B, the B is blood pressure. Now, blood pressure is a silent killer. I tell you, you can feel as good as you like. It doesn't mean a thing. You got to know what your numbers are. You got to know what your blood pressure is. Check your blood pressure. If you go to the doctor regularly, you will know what it is. And if you don't, please check. Have a blood pressure cuff at home, or Walgreens, Target, all those stores have those validated cuffs. Just ask them if it's validated and check what your blood pressure is. The normal blood pressure is supposed to be between 120/80, less than. When you start hitting the 130s, you're getting to stage 1. When you start hitting the 140s, you're getting to stage 2. If blood pressure continuously expands on the heart, putting too much pressure on the heart, what happens? It can't, it's overwhelming for the heart. So it now has to overcompensate and gets big. And then all of a sudden it becomes floppy. That's where we have congestive heart failure. So the heart is very forgiving. It really is. But we don't want to overstimulate the heart unnecessarily. Of course, nutrition, again, back to it, the kind of movement, fitness matters, right? The sleep, stress management, all of them play a role, but you have to know your numbers. I've had patients where they say, yeah, I don't want to take medications. And my practice is a holistic and integrative practice. So I'm not one to jump on medications for you, but I'm also not one that will see blood pressures like that can give you stroke and not put you on anything. I've been on blood pressure medicines because my blood pressure, I didn't do anything about it when it was getting higher and higher due to stress and just poor eating habits and a lack of sleep. And then all of a sudden, I had the worst headache ever. And I'm so glad I did, because if I didn't, I would not have checked. My blood pressure was 220/120. Yes, the worst headache ever. I felt like there was a hammer hitting on my head for 4 days. And it got worse. And I was like, let me go check my blood pressure. Never had blood pressure issues. And that was what was going on. So now, even though I've been off my blood pressure medicines since about 18 years, I still monitor my blood pressure. So if you're not taking your blood pressure and you're telling me you're not checking it, that's not wise. That's not wise. Kind of do better, okay? So just because you're feeling healthy does not mean that your blood pressure is not damaging your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your blood vessels. So please know your numbers, okay? Let's talk about C. A, B, C. C of heart. Can anyone guess? Cholesterol. Now, the interesting thing about cholesterol is we naturally make cholesterol in our bloodstream. We make cholesterol. We need it for our hormones. We need it for so many functions in the body, right? Testosterone, membrane, all sorts of things is needed for. So we make it. We naturally make it. The liver does a fabulous job at it. The issue is the foods that we eat, the dietary cholesterol, right? And it's mainly found in animal products, seed oils, pastries, when we fry a bunch of foods, that is dietary cholesterol. Now, what you can't feel it. That's the thing about cholesterol, you can't feel it. Plaques build up silently over decades. That's why you gotta know your numbers. You gotta know. Even my son, during the pandemic, when we all at home eating and eating, he had gained so much weight. And I was like, oh, this is no longer baby weight. And I insisted that the pediatrician check, and they didn't want to. I don't think he was even 10 at the time. But I insisted. And I said, if you don't check it, I can check it, right? And his cholesterol was off the chain. His triglycerides, the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and this is a child that loves to exercise, and we do have a family history of cholesterol. The HDL, which is the good cholesterol, the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, the triglycerides, right, and the total cholesterol. These are the basic. Now, we now know, or we've been knowing, but insurance didn't cover it. And because my practice focuses more on preventative care, I always order the little a, it's called lipoprotein A, the little a, which is more genetically inclined to coronary artery disease, right? You didn't do anything about that? It's just 20% of the world tends to have it, of the population. So you have to know if you have that sticky cholesterol, because if you have inflammation around the heart and then you have sticky cholesterol, you would even accelerate the plaques building. So just because you're slim doesn't mean that you don't check your cholesterol. You think you're safe. What is going on in that vessels? What's going on in your arteries? There's also the ApoB. Those are cholesterol that are more genetically inclined. So there's so much that you can do. You got to really just know those numbers. You have to know. There's so many other tests, advanced tests now that we can all do as men and women to know our numbers, know what your risks are. Moving along, D. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. My goal on this podcast is to empower, educate, and encourage you to take actionable steps to triumph at living at your finest, body, mind, and spirit. Of note, the information provided here is for educational purposes only and does not substitute as medical advice. Please discuss your healthcare needs with your licensed medical professional. If you are in need of a compassionate and comprehensive holistic physician or know someone who is, please reach out through my website, livewellness.com, for a meet and greet. It will be my honor to talk to you. Are we connected on social media yet? I share more in-depth content on best practices to ensure that you live at your finest daily. So please join me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Living at Your Finest Wellness, where we can learn together and stay connected. Lastly, please subscribe to iTunes if you have not done so already, and share the podcast within your circle of influence. An extra step? Leave a review and let me know what topics or discussions you would like to hear more of. Thanks in advance. It is always a thing of joy to hear from you. Now, let's get back to today's episode. D is for depression. I am really big on mental health. Mental health is not to be ignored. And our men, you guys are amazing, but you guys like to ignore that. You love to carry the weight of the world on your shoulder. And I know because I have a husband who does the same. I always have to put him in check, and I always have to check in on you. Are you okay? Or are you just faking you're okay? You guys, I know we're different. I know we women talk and we let out steam and stuff, but then please, we need you guys to look at your body, soul, and spirit. Don't just be machos. Yes, be machos, but do it in a way that your mental health is it's not taken for granted, right? Don't delay is also part of the D. Don't delay any form of knowing your numbers, but depression, mental health. So stress, anxiety, depression, burnout is a big thing. I've had so many, and I'm grateful for all my male patients, but it's a similar, and my husband does the same thing. You don't speak, you're not sleeping. He will stay up, but let's talk through it. Or you need to see a psychologist. There's nothing wrong with that. Listen, you gotta figure out what's going to help your mental health. Whether if you're under a lot of pressure, find somebody to pour it out to. I do a lot of journaling, brain dump, going out, taking time out. Just find something. Don't just work. Unfortunately, our men generally are known to suffer in silence because they're taught that asking for help is weakness. That's my husband too. No, it's not. It's not. It's actually strength. I actually thank my male patients when they bring these things up. I say, thank you for saying something, because a lot of them don't. So getting help is courage, right? And while we're not talking about depression, don't delay physicals. Don't delay your age appropriate screen. Screening is the number one way to avoid chronic lifestyle related diseases. So colonoscopy at 45, it used to be 50, it might change to 40, get it done. PSA, prostate blood test. It usually used to be to have that conversation with your doctor and see if you qualify, but now prostate cancer is increasing. So a PSA costs just $6 if insurance refuses to pay, so get that checked, right? Your eyes, your vision, your dental, get checked, okay? So if there's any lumps in your skin, do skin surveillance, especially for my Caucasian population. Make sure you get that changed. Don't delay on lifestyle changes. Your future will thank you. Now let's talk about E. E is something we don't talk enough about, and it's happening. E, can you guess what it is? Erectile dysfunction. It is very common. It's more common than we thought or that we think. When I was at Grady seeing patients, I used to have a lot of my families, the ladies will bring their husbands and say, fix him. But, fix him. I don't know what's going on with him. And then my male patients will come and say that I've been told not to come home until I'm fixed. And now we know, or it's always been there, but now I'm understanding it more and more that it's not just sexual health and it's not to be taken for granted, really, because that tells a story, erectile dysfunction. It's vascular health. It's vascular health. It is. And those are smaller vessels than the ones in the heart. And that's usually the first sign of vascular issues going on. So if the arteries are blocked, maybe because of diabetes, maybe because of lifestyle, obesity, adipose tissue, so many reasons, and you don't do anything, you don't see anything, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. It could be stress. It could be so many things. So please get that checked. Say something, get that checked, get examined. So annual examination isn't just about checking a box, okay? You want to be able to catch disease early. All these things are reversible, right? So say something, talk about it. It's, again, I cannot overemphasize that it's not just a sexual issue. It's an earliest sign of heart disease. It could be diabetes. Diabetes, you remember I said sticky blood? It could be damaging the vessels. My husband and I, on a podcast, I believe it was last year or the year before, when with his diabetes, pre-diabetes, moving full-blown, from pre-diabetes to full-blown diabetes, he actually had vision issues. There was even ED, and he was able to reverse it. So there are people that have prostatectomies because of prostate cancer. That could also be a problem, but there's treatment options. There are options. Sleep apnea, low testosterone is also something we're not talking about. So the body is speaking, do not ignore it. High blood pressure can also cause ED. So it's not a failure on your part. I know sometimes, we have this, not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with having pride, but I want you to know that there are treatment options. And the only way this can be taken care of is if you seek help and if you talk about it with a trustworthy physician who will work alongside you to provide the guidance to ensure optimal health and well-being. Now that we've talked about the ABCDE of men's health, and it's actually all of us, we all fall into that ABCDE, except of course for the ladies, we'll just alternate the erectile dysfunction with ours because sexual health matters to us too. I want you to know that the foundation is the same. So at Living at Your Finest, we call it the Living at Your Finest model. The pillars are woven into every aspect of our health, right? Nourishing your body, moving your body every day, building and maintaining muscle, lean muscle, prioritizing restorative sleep, right? Managing stress in a healthy way, avoiding alcohol, limiting alcohol, avoiding tobacco, limiting alcohol, staying connected with friends, family, with your faith, that matters, living with purpose, that's social connection. And these are not separate from medicine. They are all medicine. So thank you so much for staying tuned with me. I want to leave you with this challenge that this is not all wasted time, that you took the time to listen. Share this with a friend. Share this with another guy in your life. I want you to schedule your annual physical if you haven't had one. Know your numbers. Yeah, write them down. Ask. If you've never asked your doctors, don't say they drew labs. They drew labs. What numbers? What were your numbers? Ask. I've had so many patients that have had trending A1Cs and they had no idea. And then boom, they come to me and it was high. When I look at the trend, it'd been high. If they knew, they would have made changes, right? So know what your numbers, ask the difficult questions, take your symptoms seriously, talk through them. Because remember, you're modeling what you want your children to do. You want them to be healthy, right? You want them to be healthy. So let's be, the picture of what we want to see. All right. Healthy, strong, and present. And the greatest gift that you can give your family is not just working another hour. It's really giving them another healthy hour, because it's not just about lifespan, it's about health span. And lately I've been hearing sex span. So there's such a thing as how long you're able to stay sexually active. And I think it makes sense, because as long as you're able to stay sexually active, that means your vessels are healthy, and that corresponds to healthy vessels altogether, right? So I definitely encourage you to take care of yourself. If you're in the Atlanta area, I have partnered with Care Access Research, and we provide free heart and kidney screening for anyone that is at risk. If you have increased adipose tissue, which we call fat, which again, adipose tissue is the word I prefer to use. If you have a family history, risk factors, any of those, we'll provide that screening for you free of charge in partnership with the Care Access Lab. You get a $45 gift card too. So it's great to know those numbers. Take advantage. I hope this has helped, and I'm really, really just encouraged by all the great things that you do, man. Happy Father's Month. And as we move out of June, I really want you to continuously do the great work that you do, and know that we see you, we believe in you, and we're counting on you to be your healthiest version, because you're worth it. Until next time, remember that you are the reason why the world is moving along healthy and well. All right, so take care. See you next time. God bless.